Good evening. The school committee special session, try saying that 10 times fast, of October 21st, 2025 will now come to order. This meeting is being recorded and will be made available for viewing on the Methuen Public Schools website. Would you please call the roll?
Member DeZoglio. Member Donovan.
Present.
Member Keegan.
Present.
Member Maxwell. Member Shabilia, present. Member Willett. And Mayor Bogard.
Here, we have 4 members present, which constitutes a quorum, so we are able to proceed with the meeting. We need a motion and a second to accept the agenda for October 21st, 2025 as presented.
So moved. Second.
Motion from the vice chair, second is from member Donovan. Any discussion? There's no discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We'll now rise for the flag salute. Next is public participation. We don't have anybody present in the room. However, the vice chair will read into the record public participation that was submitted via email.
Good evening, committee. My name is Jade Jalbert, a resident and parent in Methuen. I apologize for not being there in person. I was not aware of this meeting until this afternoon and had already made plans. Rest assured, I will be watching later this evening. Today's agenda is limited to policies. To that, I would like to say thank you for forging ahead on these. The community is thankful and we have committee members concentrating on the work that you are doing and supposed to do, despite the many calls to pull you in other directions. Being here is important. We see you, we hear you. I did want to touch on the budget and staffing crisis that our schools continue to face. I am hopeful that this has not left your minds since budget season is over. The staffing at the schools is more than in crisis mode. My upper school student reports that 6 times per week she is in the media center or the auditorium because there are not enough subs to cover all of the absences of the teaching staff. This doesn't account for paras, one-on-ones, BBEs, etc. I have also heard from other schools that due to lack of staffing and BBE contracts, students can be left unsupervised in large groups, multiple classes together, for anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes or more. To say we are in crisis mode is not even the tip of the iceberg. Something must be done. I urge you to pay attention to this area so that you are aware of just how bad it is. It needs to be addressed. Thank you. Jade Jalbert.
So we received one message and that was it. So at this time, we'll close public participation. We'll also note for the record that we're joined by member DeZoglio. If you cannot make a meeting for public participation in person, you can send an email to snScionti@methuen.k12.ma.us before 3 p.m. on the day of the school committee meeting. Moving along, I'll invite member Shabilia, who is the chairperson of the policy subcommittee, to start the discussion with reviewing the letter from MASC Field Director Alicia Mallon and then continuing with each section from that point.
So real quick on the letter, because we covered this in our last special meeting, the letter states the practice in which the subcommittee took to go through the policies. It tells you how the notes were made and whether it designates it as a Methuen only and a MASC only, or if our policy was outdated and needed to be updated and they merged the two. So with that being said, if there's no questions on the letter, we will move right in to section C.
So what I'll do, just in keeping with the agenda, we have the cover letter that you reviewed. Let's have a motion in a second to approve section C. This is the first read, and then we can commence discussion.
And I apologize, I don't think I put the right language on the sheet. We just need to add approve section C in form, because that allows us to do it all at once, right? So we're doing it all in form. Nothing is in place until we do the whole A through, I don't know what the last letter section is in the whole project, but we accept all of them So it's the in-form, so I apologize for that. I forgot to type that in.
Yeah, that's fine. So we'll have the motion be approval of Section C in form, and this is the first read again.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
The motion is from Member Shabilia, the second from Vice Chair Keegan, and now we'll begin with discussion.
Okay, so we start with Section C. The first one is, Section C is General School Administration. The cover page here breaks down what this section is. I won't read it verbatim, but it just, again, restates a lot of what's on the cover letter that Alicia provided. And then we have the index, which we can jump through, and that puts us into File CA, Administrative Goals. This is an MASC only. They recommend adoption as an introductory policy to this section. So this is their draft, unchanged by the committee. Going once,
Questions, discussion?
going twice,
All right.
and we're on to, the next page is CD, which has been, I'm sorry, CB, which is, ours is out of date, and they recommend adoption of theirs. There was an update made. This is regarding the superintendent, and it was updated to reflect Methuen in the report to the city council in time for printing of the annual report versus the original language, which was either mayor or select board. So it aligns with our charter. Questions? You guys are making this real easy. Now we have file CB-R, which is the appointment of the superintendent, which MASC told us is redundant, and they recommend removal. Then we have file CBD, which is the superintendent's contract. This is an MASC only. They recommend removal of CBE, CBEA, and CBG in favor of this version in relocation of other subjects to the superintendent's contract. There was a big push in drafting to make sure that things were in the right place. Historically, we had a good chunk of operating procedures and policies, which is not where they belong. We had some legal language and policies, which is not where they belong. In that particular sense, they belong in the contract. So, Member DeZoglia.
Quick question at the end of this, where it says the committee may choose to negotiate a successor contract with the incumbent superintendent. So basically, when we go through the process of a new superintendent,
That's, I think, referring to like a renewal.
Yeah, renewal,
okay,
yeah.
okay,
Good point, but yes, I think that's the sitting superintendent versus a new one.
okay. That was one thing I was confused about. I was like, that's kind of weird that the current superintendent's negotiating the successor's contract. Okay, thank you.
So I took that to mean that, sort of like a bridge contract, where if we were to negotiate with Dr. Kwong to stay for the first 90 days of the new person's tenure to acclimate.
So just keep in mind that my understanding is it's referring to a successor contract. A successor contract would mean,
Yeah.
say, the next contract,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And so that, I think, from what I gather here, that's referencing, say you have an incumbent superintendent, the superintendent wants to continue to work for the district, and then the next contract can be, in essence, this opens the door for renewal.
All right.
Additionally, this in particular says in absence of specific contract language, and our superintendent contract language has language in it for a contract renewal negotiation. So I don't think we'd ever hit this part of it because we already have the language in the superintendent contract.
Anything else? All right. Now we get on to CBE, which is struck for removal per the last note. Same thing with CBEA. Same thing with CBG. And then we get into CBD, we have a blank page. CBI is the Methuen version contains date specific. The MASC version is more streamlined and doesn't contain the procedural stuff. And it was recommended that we have a open table discussion on the evaluation of the superintendent. I know this has been a sticking point. Unfortunately, for those who are stuck, decided not to join us tonight. So, comments, discussion.
So we're not setting a deadline anymore for when we,
Well, that's in the contract. That's
Yeah.
procedural.
Okay.
This is policy.
all right, that's where I'm trying to separate myself from the procedure part, from the policy.
And it was tough because for a very long time we treated them almost as one. So,
So you,
I would also, I'm sorry, I would also note that this is the language that Alicia wanted to make sure that was referring to the regulations. This is the language that reflects the regulations. The details of the when and the how are in my contract and up to the school committee when doing the contract, which you may choose to do again, right? That was one, I think that was when we had this conversation, there was a lot of that this reflects the expectation of the law here, which every school committee should have. And then anything beyond that, dates or process or anything that is incorporated in this goes more in the contract as procedural, if I recall.
And if I may add, I think this is far more succinct. It's very clear that we're addressing the standards of professional practice established by the state, which you referred to. But I think it will help us all moving forward of the role of the evaluation of the superintendent. It's very clear. There's no wiggle room, and I very much appreciate the work done on this.
just have one thing though. The only thing I have a concern about now putting the dates on the contract, and I'm not just talking about the school committee, I'm talking about future school committee members, it might not resonate with them, and they might not set a date for goals on the contract, which then leads down this road of a possibility. So that's why I think when they made the policy previously to have dates was so that the school committee also had to follow that onto the policy. That's the only thing I have a concern with. Other than that, I like the clear. Yep. Did I read?
I understand what you're saying. I'm just looking, I don't see any dates. Am I losing it? Oh, completed by June 30th. Okay, that's the one date. Yeah,
Did I miss that?
yeah.
no,
Yeah,
it's in
but
the
that's-
redlined
yeah,
version,
it
not
said-
the.
Oh, the red line, yes.
Shall be completed.
That's what I'm saying. The thing about it is when it was a policy, it was held to then the school committees.
It is a policy. It's still a policy.
So that is our current policy.
Yeah.
And we never, since I've been on the school committee, have ever met a June 30th date. We do it over the summer when we're in recess. So we don't even abide by that date anyway. So that, I'm in agreement to get rid of it because we need to make a schedule that actually works with the school year, with the superintendent's contract, with everything else. And June 30th is not that date.
So I think to your concern, Member DeSaglia, the reality is, and I think Methuen has seen this far more often, is public bodies are notoriously bad at managing contracts because it's not something we have consistent eyes on. But I think along with the attorney's office, now Macaro, or whoever it may be in the future, I mean, they're going to be negotiating these contracts. I don't foresee a time where our attorneys are going to say, don't put dates in your contracts for goaling. So, and hopefully there will always be someone on the committee who has at least a little bit of legacy knowledge from the group before them.
Very healthy discussion, I think, about this. And you mentioned that this was a sticking point for folks who are not with us. I thought that this was really important, this talk of policy.
Well, it's funny how important works. And on that note, File CCB, previously titled Line and Staff Relations, now labeled Staff Relations. This is a title and grammatical change only, system change to district. But this is our policy, unchanged other than those 3 red lines you have there in title and grammar. Comments? Next one, File CE, Administrative Councils, Cabinets, and Committees remains, this is an MASC only. It clarifies the difference between subcommittees and these other groups. Questions, comments, concerns?
I think
Yes.
this is an important one for us, just the clarification for the school committee and the staff and the parent community to understand the differences between an advisory council, a task force, and a school committee subgroup, or a subcommittee. I think this one, that's all. I just want to make a comment.
So I do want to call out, you used the word task force, and that's not in here.
Maybe it should be.
Maybe this is something we pull back to add task force, because we love a good task force in the city.
I mean, I would actually say to you that it uses the word cabinet, and we don't. I mean, that could be a replacement for us to make that more Methuen specific. I think
Okay.
task force is something that we would create that is not would fall under the school committee subcommittee charter
For
rules.
example, the facilities task force.
Correct.
Run by the
I mean,
mayor and school
cabinet,
committee members.
I mean,
but-
we don't use that language. I don't think I've ever heard any previous superintendent, school committee, or city council use the word cabinet as a group. Right? I don't, maybe that's just a simple replacement for us. All councils, task force, committees created by the superintendent recommendations. That, to me, sounds great.
I would also say, so it says functioning in an advisory capacity, all councils, cabinets, and committees created by the superintendent. So there are often times where those committees are created by school committee request. So I would also make that change as well, which I wish I'd caught the first go around.
So I'm changing cabinets to task force. And
Yes, Ryan.
tell me the second part, Member Shabilia?
Paragraph 2, first line, says superintendent makes a recommendation for submission to the school committee through the superintendent. I would modify that to show that these may be formed by recommendation of the superintendent or by request of.
Schools, or by request, that's what I want, yeah.
Member DiZoglio.
So, someone actually approached me on an idea, but they did, and we did this at UMass Amherst. We limited how many subcommittees people can be on until everybody got a subcommittee. It was kind of like requirement, like maybe you should do a subcommittee where if you're going to be in office, and having like someone that's on 3 subcommittees and 4 subcommittees or 5, how productive is things getting done in all these subcommittees if 2 or 3 people are doing multiple subcommittees? So what I know in the conversation with MASC, did they ever think about limiting?
So it never came up in our conversation during the subcommittee. However, I agree with you in the aspect it would be nice to see people get involved. However, you cannot force people to join a subcommittee. I think this body has probably tried in several ways over the last 2 years. So while I like where your head is at, I would worry that limiting a subcommittee creation because members are already on other subcommittees may limit our functioning as body.
I wasn't saying limiting the ability to form it. It's more limiting certain individuals having 6 subcommittees. Like if it came down to it, it's like, well, can you be on 3, and then everybody else will ask, and then goes to that next member. Instead of how we just nominate people, it'd be like, hey, do you want to be on the subcommittee? Like a better process of it, I guess. What I'm saying, I don't know. It was something brought up with an idea. I thought I could address it, saying maybe limiting that, getting more people involved, but I get it. Like a lot of people don't want to be on subcommittees. but I was just thinking that was an idea that we might want to put in.
So I guess my question then would be, is that a policy or an operating procedure? And I don't, it's a hard line to draw.
I think that's something we should ask Alicia, and
make a
put that
note.
as a note.
I just want to point out that this particular policy isn't addressing subcommittees of the school committee.
Yeah.
This particular policy is addressing groups that the superintendent forms that advise the school committee.
So maybe that would be, still, if we go to subcommittee part, and if they formed it, it's still, we could put it in both policies. I'm just saying. That's why, like I said, just have my little notes here. And just,
Right, but it's something like this, for instance, like, let's say the superintendent wants to make a buildings task force. That would make sense that Mr. Gosling is on that, right? And then, let's say she has a busing task force. Well, it also makes sense that he's on that one. And so to limit who she puts on her advisory committees doesn't necessarily make sense.
True, but-
Right, because certain people have certain jobs and they need to be in everything, quite honestly. I mean, Ian's gonna be in 90% of
Absolutely.
those sort of things, right? So I'm not sure limiting who the superintendent puts on her advisory panels makes sense, but I understand where you're going with the subcommittees for the school committee.
yeah, I might have put my note in the wrong.
And that might be section A, so
Yeah,
I might have to
I
ask
could've-
Alicia to go back to that, but I can do that, members
Yeah.
of it.
All right, moving on to, the next one is CFA. So the note here is CFA, CFC, and CFD are all addressed in Personnel Section G. The MASC recommends that the next three documents, the next 3 pages, be removed from Section C. Any nays on that one? Now we're on to CH. This is policy implementation. It is an MASC-only policy with a recommended adoption. Questions? All right. We are on to CHA/CHC, Development and Dissemination of Procedures. This is an MASC-only policy, and they recommend our adoption. All right, on to the next one. CHCA, Approval of Handbooks and Directives, another MASC-only recommended adoption. And you'll note that these are unchanged blanket policies. Feedback. All right, and we are on to CHD. CHD was administration in policy absence. And the draft note here is that the policies are similar. Version is at the discretion of the committee. So you'll see on the next page is the MASC version. The one with the red lines through it is the Methuen version. They are substantially similar. Theirs just looks nicer, but effectively says, in my opinion, the same thing. So I guess the question there is, do we want to go with the MASC version or the Methuen version? Good enough for me. Here we are at CL, which is administrative reports. This was Methuen only. While common to have reports, it's less common to have a policy on it. Administrative reports are placed on the agenda are best practice, not a policy. So MASC recommended removal. Any feedback?
City should do that.
Yeah, nice try there, Mr. Mayor. File CM, Annual Report of School Committee. So the two policies are very different. The school committee should discuss. They recommend adoption of theirs. you will see that their policy, only changes made were citizens to residents and town to city.
So, can we talk about this one?
Sure.
So I think this one sparked some interesting conversation, probably primarily from me during this conversation, because this is not something that we have typically done, nor have I ever been asked to do it by any previous mayor. So I'm not sure, right? Like, if this is something that we are supposed to be doing, and we highlighted the Massachusetts general law, so I reviewed that, then I think we need to be in lockstep a little bit about what that annual report is. I do recall, and I think I shared this with the subcommittee, I think in Mayor Perry's maybe first or second year, he had asked for some information from the schools to add, I think, to his annual report. But beyond that, I've never done an annual report. And so I just think maybe there's just some conversation, to do this. Like, I think we can do it. I'm not, what time of year does that happen? I don't know those things here. So this was a little bit of a conversation with the subcommittee on how this should look. Is it a separate report just about schools that we're putting out annually, but then it's supposed to go to the city, so does it make sense to combine it? I don't know, just some conversation, I think, between the city and the school department.
Yeah, this is just an idea that popped into mind, and I saw that Mayor Wu did it down in Boston. She provides like a state of the city update every year, and now she's actually planning on starting, I think this fall, a state of the schools update as well. That's something that, I don't know if it makes sense to do it here, given the fact that, we're always providing updates pretty much every meeting to the public, but it might make sense if we want to have something formalized. I'll typically deliver my update annually in the spring or early, late winter, early spring. So if we want to time it with that, like, not to set something in stone, but just a thought.
Just something to have on our radar, right? Because this is I think a combined effort on how we get this information out within the city, and whatever we do to the city then goes to the state, right? So just a conversation.
I also want to be clear that I don't think this is requiring the creation of new information. Okay.
Correct. Oh, I get that. I totally get that. It's just, what do we want it to look, what information are we creating? Is it information about the schools, like brochure type information? So it's knowledge, right, about the schools. I think that is, if I go back in my archives, I'm sure I could find what I presented to Mayor Perry. But, it wasn't like a chapter on each school. It was this is our district. These are how many kids we serve. This is the makeup of each school. These are the different kinds of programs. Here's where you can find information. It wasn't like detailed information about suspension rates, or, it wasn't that.
Right.
Yeah.
In my mind, this is something that would best be suited for us January, February-ish, because it's going to lay out the current status,
Yep.
number of students, number of out-of-district placements, increased costs in busing, the increased rates from OSD, and all of that stuff that the council and the mayor need to be aware of, because budget is looming like a gauntlet. And that, to me, is what I would like to see this become as a goal in the future. But,
I think this can become what we want it to become.
Right.
Because it's pretty vague, right? Because you could look at this and say, this could be the State of the Union, or State of the City address by the mayor, who also discusses schools. It could be the strategy for district improvement plan, could 100%, I do have to give that to Desi, right? Like, so that could be that here, but what do we actually want it to be of information we're putting out to the community for the purpose of putting information out to the community? I think we have documents that we use, and it's not for the purpose of information for the community, it's for the purpose of our work, right? Anyway, but that's longer than I thought it was gonna be, but.
Member DeZoglio?
I just have an idea, maybe for the council. I know, wait a minute. That the mayor provides an update to the council about schools. Maybe,
I think he does.
Don't you
do
do that?
you? You try to, okay, because I've watched a few meetings and it's like, school update, maybe, I haven't seen it on the agenda, so I,
It's not a standing topic, but
Yeah.
he usually gets it in his mayor's report, especially when things are happening. But sometimes the council meeting is also a dumpster fire, and it's hard to get to at the time.
yeah, okay. Just-
So that brings us to the end of section C. So I guess we can move for the final vote? Oh,
This is first read only, yep.
So I would just say the only thing is keep in mind, so whatever your motion is, to make sure that we're motioning with the changes that I'm gonna make in section C, with changing cabinets to task force and by request of school committee.
Right. Yep.
do we have to make that motion? Because this is our first read.
Well, I guess you don't, because
Well-
we're gonna actually change it for the second read, right?
Right.
Well, we could, I mean, we could simply have a motion to formally amend section C to incorporate the changes that we agreed to over the course of the discussion, to memorialize that, and have it be an official vote, and have it be all encompassing, so we don't have to go through each thing that we tweaked.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And then we'll,
We're not removing any from this group this time, that would be the only change to your.
changing cabinet to task force, right? I think that makes sense.
All right.
So, we have a motion to amend section C to incorporate the changes that we agreed to over the course of the discussion tonight, or today.
So moved.
Motion from the vice chair, second from member Donovan. Any discussion about the amendments? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, so we'll officially incorporate those amendments that we discussed. And we need a motion now to approve section C in form as amended. This is the first read again.
So moved.
Motion from the vice chair, second from member Donovan. Any discussion? Otherwise, nope. We'll vote then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So the ayes have it, and that's been approved for the first read. Next, we need a motion and a second to approve section D.
So
In
moved.
form, we'll say, right? Officially in the motion. Again, this is first read. We have the motion from member Shabilia. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from the vice chair. Discussion? Pass it off.
And here we go again. All right, so if you guys can flip through all of the clean versions of C till you get to the index for section D, which is much bigger than C. So we are going to start with DA. DA is an introductory policy, MASC only. The version suggested changes the name from fiscal management goals to budget goals and objectives. So our current DB, we were told that it was more appropriate to be DA. So they recommend moving the language and adopting MASC's DB.
I'm so sorry, may I interrupt for a second? Did we do
Sure.
a motion to accept section D in form?
We did.
Did I, so, I'm so, who?
Oh, I
who
wrote it down.
motioned
It
that and
was,
who's-
I motioned it and member Keegan second.
I'm so sorry, thank you.
See, we're lost without Martha.
I think it's fast as I can.
You're typing. I have to handwrite this stuff. Okay, my one concern with DA, especially following last night's city council meeting, is the reference to Munis. It seems somewhat aspirational at this current point in time.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that too. Because if we were ever to change Munis,
Keep in mind, Munis is a specific product
Yeah.
with a specific vendor, so it might not make sense to have a reference to a specific
Yeah,
product
that's what I mean.
from a specific vendor in the language, make it
Do we
maybe
need it?
more evergreen, just a thought.
Hmm.
Cut it out. Are we in agreement on that?
Yeah, I think we could just remove Munis in the quotations because it doesn't add, we'll remove anything from the actual sentence.
so you want to do amendment?
Or we do it at the end.
Yeah.
We'll do it like we did the last one,
Yeah.
right?
Perfect.
Okay, anything else on DA? All right, on to DB, annual budget. This one does not have a note. So this is an MASC policy. I think that this should be reviewed because it's budget. There may be references to the charter in here that the subcommittee missed. Member DeZoglio?
But do we also want, because the finance subcommittee now, shouldn't we have, the school committee should have deadlines for the subcommittee to meet too, with the finance?
Well, I don't
For the
think,
budget? Just curious.
I don't think you put those deadlines in a policy.
Okay.
Alicia did recommend that we have a overall school committee calendar for things like that need to get done. And she also recommended, a budget calendar for things to get done. But those are outside the policy, right? It's just best practices and this is what we should be doing. And so we're gonna try to get that implemented, but it's outside of the actual policy.
Yeah, hopefully that's something the new group can receive and roll with in January. All right, anything on DB? DBC was budget deadlines and schedules, which is out of date. They recommend the MASC version, which is the next page. We did incorporate a reference to the city charter in here. And in my personal opinion, I think this is sufficiently ambiguous to align with whatever dates the then superintendent and then mayor and CAFO and whoever else have work out between them. Anything for DBC? DBD, budget preparation procedures, is out of date. This one is from 1989, originally from 1975, so go us.
At least some of us were alive at that point.
Yeah, some of these policies were older than me.
So, just so you know, August 1989, I was 5 months old.
I wasn't even
It's not
thought of
relevant.
yet.
I was 4.
Okay.
I was not 5 months.
Listen, enjoy the moment, Dr. Kwong.
I was about to deliver a baby.
All right, budget planning. We did add the language you see there in red. So there was a conversation, and there is a note at the bottom that the committees, advisory committees may take part in this. I guess in hindsight, I guess I would be unclear as whether the advisory committee would be the subcommittee or a third-party committee. Like a task force of sorts, or a cabinet. Member DeZoglio.
I would just say that, we're talking about budget planning right now, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I would want our finance committees to be, that's it. I don't want anybody else outside that purview, because we're relying on our budget finance committee and the city council's budget. I don't want anybody else from the outside having their own little special committee directing those subcommittees. Okay, is that, but I thought you were talking about task forces and all that stuff.
Well, a task force doesn't need to be outside the administration.
I think, we all can interpret this differently, but I think there are groups, there are advisory councils right now that exist in Methuen Public Schools
CPAC,
that can
APAC.
give me feedback for budget planning that I would bring to the finance subcommittee
Okay.
to say like, yeah, CPAC, Gina and I are trying to meet with them more frequently, like what did they, hearing, seeing, needing, right? We have the Mental Health Advisory, Parent and Student Advisory Council. There's some things coming out of that that may impact. So I don't think it's outside of the scope of the school
Okay.
group, right, that would impact. I mean, that could be
No.
what this means, but for me, I think there are some groups within the school world, right? Our
No.
school site councils, if we beef that up to have that be more impactful in a timely manner, then that would be another group that would impact some of our discussions on budget, so.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree with that. It's just when you're reading it, you're like,
And-
you,
right.
I think it needs to just be clear what that is, what it's interpreting. Because if anybody else is misinterpreting it down the road, again, I always think about 10 years from now. What someone misinterpreting and saying, well, no, I have the right policy to have something that could affect the budget, the finance committees, subcommittees. But when you have CPAC and all that stuff, that to me is, yeah, we would love to have the finance subcommittee know what those groups need to have theirs. So I think that just needs to just be more specific.
Could you refer me to the area that you're really, that?
No, what he was referring to,
So we're talking about the note,
No.
okay, over here. Okay, I thought there was,
The final, the note is for us, right?
Yeah. Right.
So the note would come off in a
Okay.
final clean copy. The note is for us to think about what else would we could incorporate in this. And I think if that's already part of it, there's no reason to have it part of the actual policy
Yeah,
language.
I agree with just leaving the
Leaving it.
policy as is and not
Then it
working
just
it.
incorporates what we do and the people who could impact the budget. I agree.
with the bullets. Yeah, I get it.
Anything else? Okay. BDF was Methuen only. They recommend removal as it's covered in DBC and DBD. Feedback, comments? Nope. This is DBG, Budget Adoption Procedures. Not only is it out of date, but it's including the cost requirements for cost centers and budget authority. They recommend the MASC version, which you'll find on the next page. This is heavily MGL driven.
So I just want to comment on this, just because I've heard some comments by people saying that, you know, maybe the school committee should be seeing line by line budget and approving each line of the budget as opposed to the cost center, which is what the law is. And so we approve the cost center level, not the individual lines underneath the cost center. So I think that's important to note, and that's what the policy says. Just because I've been hearing rumblings about doing line-by-line budgets. That is not in fact what this policy states, and it is not what the laws in Massachusetts state.
Member Donovan.
I have a question. So there's a reference to town meeting in here? Is that, I don't understand. Why should we take that out? Unless we are changing our form of government, and we don't know it yet. It just didn't come out. Yeah.
Which we put in right underneath that, so I'm not sure how we missed that one.
Do we want to strike everything before the red and then include that in our amendment?
It should read, authority for adoption of the final school budget, bottom line lies with the city council.
Right.
So, authority for adoption of the final school budget, bottom line lies with, and then you'll strike everything after that and just replace it with city council.
Perfect.
Okay. Now we are on to file DBJ, which is Budget Transfer Authority. This is an MASC policy only. They recommend adoption. Certain provisions in this policy, in this category, may established by a city charter. So we may need to bump this up against our charter. This may be something worth having Ian and Maggie look at. And I don't think we need to remove it now, but if we can make a note to have them look at it before the second read. I would start with Ian and then potentially Maggie.
Currently, Ian comes to us to do cost center transfers, so, this is our practice. But we don't have a business officer's quarterly report. We get monthly reports.
Oh, so, yeah, that's right. No, that quarterly at the end of the third paragraph.
Yeah, so
Needs to
maybe
be changed
just
to-
have Ian take a look at this one and make sure it matches our practice.
Okay, we are on to file DD, which is out of date. And they recommend the MASC version on the next page, which is grants, proposals, and special projects.
That's fine.
So the note at the bottom, the district business office must have a state and federal grant manual with procedures aligned to state and federal law and regulation in order to comply with the state granting requirements. So we don't approve that because it's not subject to the school committee. The administration should ensure such document is being followed.
Yes. There's a joint one for city and schools.
Perfect.
We use it to submit during our audits.
Anybody? All right. DEA, municipal chargebacks. This is Methuen only, and the committee should discuss. This, I think, is timely considering our budget situation from the last go-around. I think that the policy, I think this one should be maybe put on hold. The agreement with the city and the schools for chargebacks for health insurance and all the other things is approximately what, keep me honest, is like 15, 20 years old at this point. It may be worth evaluating.
Yeah, and another thing too, there's a reference here to the city auditor. We don't have that
Saw that.
position
This
anymore.
may be one that we could talk about with the finance subcommittee.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a good
So
idea.
can we refer this out to the finance subcommittee?
Yes, you can. I'm doing that right, delegating that to the finance subcommittee right now.
So you know what
Like
we
it.
can do is when we, at the end, when we have a motion to adopt the amendments that have been made over the course of the discussion, we can also throw in there too, including the referral, any referrals to, say, finance subcommittee as part of that.
Putting that.
I'm just trying to make my motion notes. Okay. File DEC, federal fund supplement, not supplement policy. Is there a typo there?
No, it's
Supplant.
supplement, not
Supplant? Oh, I can read. Oh, boy, look at me go.
which that's just, yes, that's a law that we have to follow.
Okay. This is MASC only, and recommend our adoption.
I think, yeah, okay. This is MASC only, but it is a federal regulation to supplement, not supplant.
I like
for certain
supplant
grants.
better.
Yeah. So, we know which grants we have to do that with.
All right. Anybody?
Nope.
Okay, we are on to DFC, which is lease and rental of school facilities. Facilities goes in section K, and long-term rentals are unusual in the policy manual, so they recommend moving this to section K. Anybody against? All right. DFD, admission and gate receipts. This is procedural, and they recommend removing from the policy. Anybody against? All right. Authorized signatures, file DGA, authorized signatures. This is MASC only, and they recommend adoption. The above language implements a single signatory of district warrants, which is a change in course from what we do now. So we should be aware of that.
Wait a minute.
We added 3, I think, to
We
this
have
because
3.
that's typically what we.
Oh, right, yeah.
That's what we do.
I think she kept her note the same, but
But
we,
I mean, we can move it to one person
can.
if we want to do that. My only concern about this 3 is that if we vote 3 and only 3 can sign and someone's not available, then we don't have somebody. We don't have 3 signatures. So, and it says no other signatures is valid, so that worries me just a little bit, that if we need 3 and we only have 3, that doesn't, we need to have at least a backup.
can we have 3 in an alternative?
I mean, think about it right now.
Oh, yeah,
There are only 3 of us that sign warrants currently.
right.
4. So you guys.
Well, you
don't
sign them as
see-
mayor.
Well,
Sign them no matter what.
the thing is, I think there's a DocuSign that goes around for
Yeah.
the school
Yes.
committee.
And once 3 signs, it locks
I
it out.
I get the printed version.
Right.
Yeah,
You do it the old school way.
the old school way.
But that said, when one of us can't sign it, Member Willett will sign for us, right? Like, he does do it when he's asked specifically, right? So, that's what I'm saying, is like, we have the 3 regulars, but we need a backup in case someone can't sign for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying 3 members responsible. I get what Member Keegan is saying. Like, should we change it to 3 members sign? Like,
I mean,
any 3 members sign? And then,
Does it lock up? I didn't realize.
yeah, no, there are times when I try to go because I'm in school, and then I go in and I can't sign it because someone.
He'll close it, he does
they'll
close it once he
But
has.
Mr. Goslin closes it.
We'll close it once he has what he
Okay.
needs to,
Yeah.
so we can move it along.
That's why I don't sign it, because I get it.
Yeah.
during
And
school time.
I understand that, but, I mean, there have been times when I get a funeral, and I'm sure my colleagues have been in the same
was in Disney
situation. Or at Disney World, which is better than a funeral, but,
Land-
and we get a call.
I'm wondering, we had some
is there a way
conversation about
around
this,
this?
and it doesn't seem like it warrants a long conversation, but it's about the actual practice and
Right.
efficiency of the practice for us to keep because we move at a fast pace, right? I wonder if now that we are putting all the warrants on the school committee agenda for approval every month, maybe it does, which is a practice, again, that is, everybody else does that, and we're doing it, does it make sense just to have a single signer? Like a lot of other districts?
Well, what if
Do you know,
we-
I don't know, because this seems very common, right? I think there was a little surprise out of our field rep who was like, what do you mean? You don't have one person signing, right? It seems common that there's one person who is the signatory along with the mayor and Maggie and me and Ian, right? Like, we all have to be signatories on every single thing that moves out of the district, and then we approve all of the warrants every month, so everybody sees it and it's public,
language.
right? There's no funny business in the signing, it's public, right?
So
I don't know.
so if we are going to designate one one person, it should be the vice chair.
I don't disagree, but
Yeah,
that's. for the
right?
committee
Like,
to
would it be
decide.
that make more sense?
What if we amended the language to read as the committee will designate by roll call 3 members,
I see that.
any of which are authorized to be the one signatory responsible?
Members had to sign it?
No, we did it because that's the practice.
That was,
That was our
but there was,
conversation, because we need 3, then the mayor signs it, we sign it.
but there was no
No, there was a-
reason why.
There was a change in the law. It used to be that you had to have that, and then the law changed and said you could have one
One.
instead.
But we didn't go
But
there.
this body, before my time,
Yeah.
decided not to go with the one.
That's correct.
They wanted to keep the 3.
But we're all on the hook.
Yes.
No matter who
Regardless
signs
of
it.
who signs it, every single
Yeah.
person on the school committee is responsible for the warrant.
Right, okay.
And you're absolutely right. It was probably my first year. It was vehemently voted against having one signatory. And I, at that point in time, completely warranted and completely understood.
Well, I like Member Shabilia's suggestion.
Did you
'cause-
write down what you just said?
Absolutely not.
I think that makes perfect sense. If we have
Yeah, are you
three
ready to
with
type? And
one.
I'll-
Yes,
I'll-
I'm ready to type, go.
So the committee will designate by roll call 3 members, all of which, hold on, what did I say last time? It sounded good and I don't remember. 3 members,
Which can, did you say which can act
which,
as?
which may be responsible,
Signatory?
all of which may act as the single
There it
signatory,
is.
responsible for,
Which
so on and so
may
forth.
act as the single,
We need
signatory.
NFL replay
Yep.
tapes.
I got it.
All right.
And everyone's on the hook.
Anybody else? Here all night. Okay, file DCDGD, which is credit cards. This is procedural, recommended removal from the policy. My question on this is how many school credit cards do we have running around?
So I wish Ian was here. We actually keep all of our credit cards in the business office. The only ones that are really signed out frequently is the Home Depot cards for our maintenance and custodial staff. They have to sign those out, bring the receipts, and it's all tagged to an open PO for each building.
Okay,
So there's a process for that. There are no staff member in this district is carrying any school credit cards on their person. They have to
Okay.
come and sign it out. We have a very clear process for that. We have a Market Basket credit card for consumables for our FCS.
okay.
Yeah, so, and then I believe we also have a Walmart. Those are the 3 accounts that we have, that people can come and sign out with open POs for consumables and/or products.
Anybody else?
I will double check with Mr. Goslin, though, if I didn't get those correct.
I'm sure he's sitting at home
95.
right now yelling at the TV.
Sure he is.
All right, file DH, bonded employees and officers. This is MASC only, and they recommend adoption. Anybody? Nope, all right. File DI, fiscal accounting and reporting. Another one that is MASC only and recommended adoption. Given the nature, I would recommend sending this to Ian's office for review. Or it may also be so high level that the body doesn't warrant that.
I feel like we already do this because it's so high level. I mean, we will receive periodic financial statements from the superintendent showing the financial condition of the school department. We get that once a month.
Right.
Right.
Oh, I agree. I just don't want to,
Yeah. I mean, I don't see that this needs to go anywhere because it's so high level that it's what we do.
all right. Anyone else? File DIA, accounting systems. This one is out of date, also covered by file DI, and they recommend approval. Removal, not approval. Any comments? All right. File DIB is unexpired school department funds from previous fiscal year. So this is Methuen only, and we should discuss our current practice. As a note, in our original materials, this was coded as DCE. So they did update our file labeling because we had it miscoded.
This is something that I think would be smart to refer to the finance subcommittee.
Agreed.
Okay. File DIE. This is audit financial monitoring. This is out of date, and they recommend the MASC version, which is on the next page. This is their version. Not every district is subject to single audit checks. They did note that this may, there is a reference to the city charter, but it may need to be checked. And
Can I just have I might need to check a date on this. The September 30th date, if I could just.
so I know the student activity accounts, we say 25 here. I know the high school is 50. I think we should mark that in the policy as appropriate, because right now it limits us to 25.
Right, because we had approval to make that one higher, yep.
Yes. If we want to, I know that that was a thing for a minute. If we want to discuss changing it, I think now might be the time.
Well, all this says is that if the student activity account exceeds 25,000, we shall consider an outside audit every 3 years. So I don't think this is limiting us to 25,000. It just says if it does, then we should probably consider auditing it.
So I guess this no longer, so my understanding previously was we were capped at 25. So now if these accounts go over 25,
We have a policy, and I'll find it, but there isn't we had to go to school committee, I don't know, a few years, I don't know, it was during my time maybe, to go have the high school be above 25 because of the sheer, like, just the prom alone. One event can bring it above that number very quickly.
I haven't seen that
So we
policy
did
yet,
get an approval by the school committee to increase the high school only, to have it be 50, I think, before we moved it.
Very recently.
Was it recent? It was during my time, I just, listen,
I was crazy about looking at those balances.
That too. So there is a vote out there, we can look at this one to see where those match. I don't know if that's a policy or if that's a procedural thing that we have to vote to make sure there's an approval for it to be above, a balance above 25,000 in the checking account. So we can,
Right, but for this, this particular policy is talking about auditing it.
Right,
And
right,
so
right.
If it goes above, if, for the accounts that are above, we should consider an outside company auditing it every 3 years, as opposed to the annual that has to be done anyway, because it's a student activity account and it says it has to be done once a year anyway. So I'm
Yeah, I don't-
assuming that we're auditing the
We
student
get,
activity accounts.
we
every
get
year.
audited all the time, yeah.
Right.
So I don't know what that means by an outside, because we only get audited by outside
Do we do
people.
an outside firm every year? Is that correct?
It's an outside, it's a, I don't even, it was CBiz. It was Melanson and
Melanson Heath, and
Melanson
now
and
it's
Heath. Every
CBiz.
year they come in and do our audits.
Okay.
It's an outside group that comes in and does the city and school audits.
They're at City Hall now.
Exactly.
Right, so then
And they'll be at us next doing grant single audits. They'll be doing all the audits for us that we're required to do annually. So I don't know who the other is that a different outside group that we would get? No, right?
No, it appears that this policy coming from MASC is saying that we're doing internal audits. We're required to do an internal audit every year.
Oh, God, we do.
Right.
We do external audits
So-
every year,
And every 3 years, if it's above 25,000, we should consider an outside.
which we're doing
But now you're saying
annually.
we're doing annually
We are.
outside audits.
Yes.
Then we're going above and beyond this policy already.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, do we want to change the policy to match what we do? Or do we want to leave it this way in case we decide not to use outside firms every year?
I don't
Well-
think we're ever going to get away from that.
Member Shabelia just mentioned something about the part two of the audit, for which would be the financial piece. We posted the RFP for that. We only got one response from CBiz, so we don't have the RFP out there now. In order to fund that, that would be another free cash transfer, and we don't have any specific timeline set for state certification of free cash. It's not in the budget, so that's a question. If we get the certification later this year, we would be able to do that. Like for this current fiscal, for the prior fiscal year, we didn't get the certification until the first couple of months of the calendar year, so that's kind of in flux, but
But I'm assuming that
And that's
because
separate
we
from
are
this.
audited every year, we have money in our school budget to pay for that audit every year?
We don't pay for the audits.
Okay.
I think the city does.
City pays for the audits. All right.
I'd have to check, I'll double check, but
So-
we'll double check.
we can confirm that. Another thing, not to sound like a broken record.
Because we're required to do it.
This might be something else, because when we meet with the finance, the subcommittee comes together,
Yeah.
we're gonna include the CAFO in that. And so she's our point of contact on the city side for anything related to the ongoing audits that we have to go through. So this might be another topic for that subcommittee before we firm up anything here.
All right.
So we have more questions about this one, so I'll put this one on the subcommittee, finance subcommittee one too, just to work out the details, yep. Nope.
The one thing that we are gonna wanna firm up is the question that has recently come up with, on the city's, with the solicitor, about exactly which contract. This is something that has been kind of a sticking point. I mean, I like the idea of adopting the MASC version simply because I think this is a reflection of commonly utilized best practices. This might be a separate conversation, but this has been coming up between the city's legal department and purchasing folks.
I also, because the finance subcommittee, I feel like a lot of these policies fall in line with the finance subcommittee. Like, I just don't know how much power we want to give that subcommittee, but I just, yeah,
In the end, everything comes back.
yeah, but I just feel like they have, these policies kind of fall, like purchasing, when the subcommittee want to know what we're purchasing.
No.
But this is all,
Yeah.
Yeah.
this is all, these two here, I think are not Methuen generated, these are purchasing procurement under Massachusetts general law, right?
Yeah.
Which is just the general outline. The details are gonna have to be worked out between departments, finance subcommittee, purchasing, and school department. Like, it's not, these two represent what's happening in 30B that we are required to follow.
And something too,
So-
that I should mention, the thinking behind referring some of these things to the finance subcommittee, the whole thought behind the finance subcommittee is for us to have that early and ongoing discussion about the budget.
Right.
And so, for example, you know, the question about chargebacks, that's something that's very relevant to the budget, so that makes sense, I think, for us to cover. When it comes to purchasing, procurement, you know, I don't think that that's something that would fit well under the finance subcommittee, simply because of the fact that we're trying to focus on the budget piece.
Anything on DJ? That was missed opportunity, guys. All right, DJA, Purchasing Authority, another MASC only recommended adoption, and you will see that the only change made here was to add a change which was originally a town meeting to the city council. Feedback? All right. Then we get into DJE, which is Contracted Services Policy. Ours was out of date, and they recommend the MASC version, which they label procurement requirements. which is basically a restatement of 30B. Feedback? All right. That brings us to DJE-R-1, which was bidding requirements. It's out of date and procedural, and they recommend removal. Argument against? Okay. DJE-R-2, purchasing requirements for athletic equipment. This is procedural. All purchasing is covered by the same policy, and they recommend removal. Anybody against? DJG, Methuen Vendors Bids Quotes. This is out of date, and they recommend removal. DJGA, Sales Calls and Demonstrations. Out of date, and they recommend removal. Just for funsies, the current practice was codified, it says, in 1975. Joyce. Okay, file DK, Payment Procedures. This is out of date, and they recommend removal. Argument against? File DK, their version. Specific details established by the city should be substituted for those in the policy above. It was modeled for a single signatory district, so single signatory on warrants, which is what we codified in our policy a few pages ago. So I think we need to change the red line to match. Okay. Comments, concerns? Okay. DKC, expense reimbursement. The note is some language doesn't belong in this section. The language regarding students that should be discussed. And then the next page is their policy and what they recommend for adoption. Comments, questions, concerns, feedback? And last but not least, DM. This is procedures for safe and responsible holding and handling of cash receipts. This is procedural, and they recommend removal. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of section D.
So we technically, because we're discussing this, we have a motion on the floor from the start, so I would recommend a motion to adopt the amendments that we've agreed to over the course of the discussion, as well as combined with that, it would be also a motion to refer anything that we determine to refer to the Finance Committee. We're going to do that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Member Shabilia, second from the Vice Chair. Discussion regarding the amendment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, so we now need a motion and a second to approve Section D in form with the amendments and referrals. Again, first read.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Member Shabilia, second from Member DiZoglio. Any further discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor? Say
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Do we have any other business from the committee? If we have no other business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion from Member DiZoglio, second from Member Shabilia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The time is 6:17 p.m. and we are adjourned.
Good night, Methuen.
Actually, it's more like good afternoon still.